Have you ever noticed that the men who say the least often get the most attention from women? Why is it that silence, when used right, can feel more powerful than 1,000 words? Because communication isn't just about what you say, it's about how you make her feel when you say nothing at all. In today's video, we're going to uncover the deadly art of talking to women, a Machiavellian and Stoic guide that blends the cold precision of strategy with the calm wisdom of emotional control. If you've ever felt lost when talking to a woman, overthinking every word, trying too hard to impress, this video will change your entire approach to attraction and power. So before we dive deep, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and watch till the end. Because what you'll learn here won't just change your love life. It'll change the way you understand human nature itself. There was once a man named Adrian, quiet, calculating, stoic by nature, but with a mind that was always observing. He had spent years studying how people behaved, not just women, but everyone. He watched the confident ones speak, the insecure ones try too hard, and the powerful ones control rooms without saying much. But his life changed one evening at a cafe. Across the room sat a woman who seemed to radiate confidence. Every man's eyes followed her. Adrian felt that pull too. But instead of reacting like everyone else, he stayed still, calm. She noticed him, not because he stared, but because he didn't. That was the beginning of Adrian's lesson in what Machiavelli would call the strategic use of perception, and what the Stoics would describe as mastery over one's impulses, on the power of silence. Have you ever had that moment when you're sitting across from someone you really like? Maybe it's a woman whose smile feels like sunlight, and your heart starts racing. You want to say the right thing, sound confident, funny, interesting, but your words trip over themselves. You talk too fast, reveal too much, and later, when you're alone, you replay every second, thinking, why did I say that? We've all been there. Adrian had too. There was a time when he couldn't handle silence. Every quiet second between him and a woman felt like rejection. He thought he had to fill the air, to make her laugh, to prove his worth, to keep her from losing interest. But here's what he didn't know back then. Silence isn't emptiness. It's power. One evening, he met someone different, a woman who wasn't easily impressed. She had that calm, observant energy that made most men stumble over their words. But Adrian did something strange. He didn't rush. He spoke softly, briefly, and when she finished speaking, he just smiled and looked into her eyes. No flattery, no nervous chatter, just presence. At first, she tried to fill the silence, talking more, asking questions, searching for his attention. But that's when it hit Adrian. His silence was speaking louder than any compliment ever could. Because when you don't rush to speak, you send a quiet message. I'm not desperate for your attention. And in that stillness, something magical happens. She begins to wonder what you're thinking. It's curiosity, the most powerful emotion in attraction. Think about it. Have you ever liked someone who made you wonder what was on their mind? Who stayed calm while others tried too hard? That's the energy that pulls people in. Not words, but composure. Adrian realized that real connection isn't built through endless talking. It's built in the pauses, the eye contact, the small moments where silence creates tension. So next time you're with someone you like, don't fear the quiet. Let it breathe. Let her lean in. Because sometimes, the man who says the least is the one she can't stop thinking about. 2. The art of emotional control. Have you ever texted someone you really liked and waited for that reply that never came? Your phone lights up, but it's not them. You check again, still nothing. And in that silence, your mind starts spinning. Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? Should I send another message? That restless feeling and that emotional chaos, that's where most men lose their power. Adrian knew that feeling too. Once, he was the man who overreacted. When a woman pulled away, he'd chase. When she teased him, he'd defend himself. Every word, every emoji felt like a test of his worth. But with time, and a few painful lessons, he learned one truth. The man who can control his emotions controls the entire dynamic. There was a night he'd never forget. He was out with the same woman, confident, beautiful, and sharp with her words. She liked to test him to see what buttons she could press. When he stayed calm, she'd push harder, jokingly questioning his confidence, interrupting him, flirting with others just to see if he'd react. The old Adrian would have taken the bait. He would have tried to win her back with attention, affection, validation. But not this time. He simply smiled, sat back, sipped his drink, because he understood something powerful. When you don't react, you rise. You see, emotional control isn't about pretending not to care. It's about mastering your responses. When you stay centered, she feels it. Your stillness makes her anxious in the best way. She starts wondering, why isn't he reacting? Does he not need my attention? That's when the balance shifts. Adrian didn't play games. He practiced peace. He let her energy move around his calmness like waves hitting a rock. And slowly she softened. Her teasing stopped. Her tone changed. Because when you don't chase chaos, chaos begins to chase you. That's the real art of emotional control, not to dominate her, but to dominate yourself. Remember this: a woman can feel your emotions even in your silence. So if you want to lead the connection, don't let your feelings lead you. The calm man always wins, because his peace cannot be manipulated. 3. The power of intention. Speak with purpose. Have you ever been in a conversation where you walked away thinking, I said too much, or I shouldn't have told her that? It's almost like your words slipped out faster than your mind could filter them. You wanted to impress her, make her laugh, keep her attention, but in doing so, you gave away your power. That was Adrian's biggest flaw once. He talked too much, explained too much, tried too hard. Every time he liked a woman, he became a salesman, pitching himself, proving his value, hoping she'd buy in. But that changed one night when he met a woman named Elara. She was elegant, calm, and sharp. The kind of woman who could read through empty words. When Adrian began to speak, he noticed something unusual. She stayed silent, watching, analyzing every word. For the first time, he felt his own words echo in his head before they left his lips. That's when it hit him. Words reveal your mind, and if your mind is restless, your words expose it. So he began to slow down. Every word became intentional, deliberate. Instead of talking to impress, he started talking to understand. He asked her questions that made her think, what do you find peace in? What do you value more, truth or comfort? And for the first time, he saw something rare. She leaned in, not because of his charm, but because of his depth. You see, when you speak with purpose, your words become anchors. They ground the moment. Women are drawn to a man whose words carry weight. Not because they're poetic, but because they're authentic. Adrian learned to love silence between sentences, because that's where the power hides. He realized that every time you speak, you should either reveal truth or reveal nothing. The power of intention isn't about saying the perfect thing. It's about meaning every word that leaves your mouth. Because when your words come from calm intention rather than emotional noise, she'll feel it, and she'll start to listen differently. And that's the secret most men never understand. You don't attract her with more words. You attract her with fewer, but wiser ones. 4. The subtle art of confidence. Have you ever been around someone who didn't need to say a word, yet their presence filled the room? You couldn't quite explain it, but something about their calmness, their stillness drew you in. That's the kind of confidence Adrian used to envy. He thought confidence was about being bold, loud, and endlessly charming. He'd watched men crack jokes, dominate conversations, and thought that's what women wanted, so he tried to copy them. Louder voice, quicker wit, more compliments. But deep down, he always felt fake. It wasn't confidence, it was performance, until the day he finally got tired of pretending. It happened after a date that went nowhere. He'd spent the entire evening trying to be interesting, telling stories, keeping her laughing. But the moment he dropped her off, he knew it. She wasn't impressed. And that night, staring at his reflection, he realized The most confident man isn't the one who tries to prove himself. It's the one who doesn't need to. From then on, Adrian made a vow to himself. He would stop chasing approval. He would stop performing. He would just be. The next time he met a woman, he did something completely different. He didn't try to entertain. He didn't fill every silence. He just showed up, calm, presence-centered. And something amazing happened. She leaned in. She laughed more. She wanted to know more about him. Because women can feel when your confidence comes from peace instead of performance. It's in your tone, your eyes, your posture. It's in the way you talk slowly, the way you don't rush to impress. True confidence isn't loud, it's grounded. It's not in how much attention you demand, but how little you need. That's when Adrian understood. Confidence is not about convincing her you're enough. It's about knowing you already are, with or without her validation. And that's what draws her in. Because when you're no longer trying to be chosen, you become the one she chooses to chase. So remember this, confidence isn't a show. It's the silence that follows when you finally stop pretending. 5. The power of curiosity. Have you ever met someone who instantly made you wonder what's going on in their mind? Not because they were mysterious on purpose, but because their energy made you want to know more. That quiet intrigue, that invisible pull, that's the power of curiosity. Adrian didn't always understand it. In his early days, when he liked a woman, he'd give everything away too soon. He'd tell her about his dreams, his struggles, even his insecurities, hoping honesty would make her feel closer. But what it really did was kill the mystery. He thought being open was the same as being real, but he didn't realize. Curiosity dies when there's nothing left to discover. One night, he met a woman named Lyra. She was playful, confident, and dangerously intelligent. The kind of woman who had men wrapped around her attention. But Adrian didn't fall into that trap. He didn't reveal everything. When she asked, "So what kind of women do you like?" he smiled gently and said, "The kind who can make silence feel comfortable." Then he stopped talking. She laughed, but not out of amusement, out of curiosity. For the first time, she was the one trying to figure him out. And that's when he realized the secret. What's unknown becomes irresistible. You see, curiosity is like a fire. The less oxygen you give it, the longer it burns. When you talk too much, when you overshare, you smother that flame. But when you hold something back, when you let your words come slowly, when your energy says, "There's more to me than you see right now," you become magnetic. It's not about playing games. It's about self-control. It's about letting her earn your story instead of handing it over too easily. And in that restraint, you create value. Lyra couldn't stop thinking about him afterward. Not because he said something extraordinary, but because he didn't say everything. So here's the truth. When you make her wonder, when you leave space for imagination, you give her mind a reason to chase your mystery. Because attraction doesn't live in attention, it lives in curiosity. 6. The mirror principle. Have you ever noticed how when you really like someone, you start to mirror them without even realizing it? You pick up their tone, their expressions, their rhythm of speech, almost like your energies start to sync. That's not an accident. That's psychology. That's connection. And Adrian learned this truth one quiet evening that felt like a test. He was meeting Lyra again, the same woman who once tried to read him like a book. But this time the energy was different. He didn't plan to impress her. He didn't come rehearsed or calculated. He was simply present. When he spoke slowly. When he paused, he did it with intention. His body was relaxed, his tone measured, his words few. And within minutes, something subtle began to happen. She started mirroring him. Her voice softened. Her gestures slowed. Her energy began to match his. That was the moment Adrian realized something powerful. When you control your energy, you control the emotional tone of the room. He remembered how, in the past, he used to let a woman's mood control him. If she was playful, he became playful. If she was cold, he grew insecure. He was always reacting, never leading. But now, everything had shifted. He wasn't reacting to her emotions. He was guiding them. That's the mirror principle. Whatever energy you give, calm or chaos, will eventually reflect back to you. If you speak fast and nervously, she'll feel restless. If you speak calmly and confidently, she'll relax and follow your pace. It's emotional leadership without words. As the night went on, Lyra leaned closer. She laughed softly. She seemed more comfortable, almost mesmerized by the calm in his presence. And that's when Adrian understood. You don't win people over by chasing them. You draw them in by becoming the emotional mirror they want to see themselves in. Because everyone is unconsciously seeking someone who can stabilize their emotions. When you become that person, calm, grounded, collected, you don't just attract her attention. You anchor her emotions to your presence. That's the true power of the mirror principle. Lead through stillness, and they will follow without even realizing why. 7. The frame of power. Have you ever felt like you were losing control of a conversation? Like somehow, without meaning to, you were following her lead instead of your own. You start agreeing too quickly. You start adjusting your words to please her. And before you know it, the connection doesn't feel equal anymore. It feels like you're performing again. That's what happens when you lose your frame, your sense of direction, your inner compass. Adrian used to fall into that trap all the time. He'd start off calm and composed, but the moment a woman teased him or questioned him, he'd try to win her approval back. He'd let her energy set the tone, playful if she was playful, serious if she was serious. But the truth is, the one who controls the emotional tone controls the entire interaction. And that night with Lyra, Adrian finally understood what the frame of power really meant. They were sitting across from each other, the candlelight flickering between them. She playfully said, "You're a hard man to figure out. Most guys tell me what I want to hear." Adrian smiled slightly and replied, "Maybe I'm not here to impress you. Maybe I'm here to see if you impress me." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was charged. Her playful grin faded into intrigue. She leaned back, studying him, realizing that the game had changed. That's the essence of the frame. You're not reacting to her world, you're inviting her into yours. From that moment on, the tone of their interaction shifted completely. She asked more questions. She tried to keep his attention. Because deep down, every woman feels magnetically drawn to a man who doesn't need her validation to feel powerful. Adrian understood that holding the frame isn't about being dominant or arrogant. It's about emotional leadership, guiding the direction of the moment through calm certainty. When you have a strong frame, you don't get pulled into her emotions. She gets pulled into your presence. So remember this, never chase her vibe, anchor it. Because the man who owns the frame doesn't need to compete for attention. He simply commands it. 8. The use of scarcity. Have you ever noticed how people start missing you the moment you stop being easily available? It's strange, isn't it? When you were texting first, calling often, always showing up, she didn't seem to care. But the moment you pull back, the silence becomes deafening. Suddenly she starts wondering where you went, what you're doing, and why you're no longer orbiting around her like before. That's the law of scarcity, not manipulation, not a trick, but a reflection of how human desire works. We crave what feels rare. Let me tell you a story. Adrian had been talking to a woman named Celine for a few weeks. She was charming, witty, and breathtakingly confident. But deep down, she was testing him, like many women do, to see if he would lose himself in her beauty. Every time she delayed her reply, he felt anxious. Every time she pulled away, he'd rush to fix the distance. But one day, something shifted. Adrian remembered a lesson he once read. The value of gold is in its rarity. So instead of chasing her attention, he decided to make his presence valuable again. He stopped over-explaining. He stopped always being the first to reach out. And when she texted, "Where have you been?" he simply replied, "Living. You should try it. It's pretty good." That one message changed everything. Because suddenly, she felt what every woman secretly fears. The absence of a man who was once present. It wasn't anger or arrogance. It was scarcity, the emotional realization that he was no longer seeking her energy to feel complete. In that silence, she began to reflect. Who else was making him laugh now? Who was occupying his mind in the spaces she used to fill? Scarcity creates imagination, and imagination is more powerful than words. You see, when a man makes himself too available, he teaches her that his time has no value. But when he steps back, not to play games, but to protect his peace, he becomes mysterious, unpredictable, and deeply magnetic. Adrian didn't disappear. He simply stopped proving. And that's the art. Never punish with silence, but reward with presence, selectively. Because in the end, what is always available is rarely desired, and what is rarely seen is never forgotten. 9. The energy of purpose. Have you ever noticed how a man completely changes when he's chasing something bigger than love? A dream, a mission, a destiny? His voice deepens, his movements slow down, his presence feels different. That's not arrogance, that's purpose. And women, they can feel it even before you say a word. Let me take you back to Adrian's story. After everything, the heartbreaks, the lessons, the silent nights, there came a time when he finally understood why everything had felt so heavy before. It wasn't because women were difficult to understand. It wasn't because he lacked charm or looks. It was because his life revolved around them. He had made women his goal instead of his journey's companion. Every text, every date, every compliment was a way to fill a void that purpose was meant to occupy. Then one morning, as the sun rose through his apartment window, Adrian did something different. He sat in silence and asked himself a question few men dare to ask. What if I stopped chasing her and started chasing me? That day, everything shifted. He began running again, writing again, building his business again. The more he poured into his purpose, the less he needed validation. And the less he needed validation, the more women felt drawn to him. Not because of what he said, but because of what he radiated. When he met Celine again months later, she noticed it instantly. He wasn't the same man who used to wait for her messages. He wasn't even trying to impress her. He was present but detached, warm but unbothered. She could feel that his attention wasn't free anymore. It had to be earned. That's the hidden truth every man needs to know. Purpose is the highest form of attraction. Because when a man knows where he's going, a woman either walks beside him or gets left behind. Women can sense when a man has direction. It shows in his tone, in his silence, in how he walks away when something doesn't align. Adrian didn't become more interesting because he read new lines or changed his look. He became magnetic because he started moving with intention. And that's the essence of the energy of purpose. You stop being a man who seeks love to feel alive, and become a man whose aliveness creates love naturally. So remember this. A man without purpose chases women. A man with purpose attracts them effortlessly, because nothing is more seductive than a man who doesn't need to be 10. The calm man always wins. Have you ever noticed how silence can be louder than words? How a calm man in a storm somehow controls everyone, not because he shouts, but because he doesn't need to. That's what Adrian finally learned in the last chapter of his transformation. That in the chaotic dance of attraction, emotion, and ego, the calm man always wins. There was a time when he would panic if a woman didn't text back. He'd overthink every word, replay conversations, and assume he'd done something wrong. The need for certainty consumed him. But one night, sitting alone in his dimly lit apartment, he realized something powerful. The storm wasn't outside of him. It was inside. Every woman he had ever lost wasn't because she found someone better. It was because she found someone calmer. So Adrian began to train himself in the art of emotional neutrality. He stopped responding to tests with frustration. He stopped letting guilt or jealousy hijack his peace. And instead of reacting, he began observing. When Celine tried to provoke him once, saying, "You seem different," colder maybe, he smiled and said softly, "No, just clearer." And in that moment, she looked at him differently, almost uncertain, because she could no longer move him. And when a woman can't move you emotionally, she starts feeling something deeper, respect. You see, calmness isn't weakness. It's emotional gravity. It's the quiet strength that tells the world, "I decide when to speak. I decide when to walk away. When you stay calm, when you no longer explain, beg or chase, you become unpredictable, and that unpredictability creates desire, because women are drawn not to chaos, but to the man who remains still within it. Adrian's calmness became his weapon, his shield, and his language. While others tried to outtalk or outimpress, he simply watched. He didn't rush love. He didn't fear loss. He just moved with peace, and peace made him powerful. The calm man always wins, because he's not fighting battles that don't matter, ending sharp close. So remember, when you talk to a woman, don't chase her attention. Command it. Don't speak to fill silence. Speak to direct it. Don't react emotionally. Lead emotionally. When you master this art, you don't just attract women. You attract peace, control, and respect. Because the true master of communication isn't the one who speaks the most. It's the one who can make silence feel powerful. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.